The AFC North is one of the most hard-fought and competitive divisions in football every single year. These strong, hard-nosed teams can't stand one another, and whoever eventually wins the division has definitely earned that right. But what if we put the hatred and the history aside and took in all of the best players from the four teams, the Steelers, the Ravens, the Browns, and the Bengals, to make the best possible AFC North offense? Well, that's exactly what I'm doing today, making the AFC North Dream Team. We're going to be going through the whole offense, looking at the potential players at every single position from each of the four teams to give us what I believe will be the best possible combined offense. Before I get started on the offense, make sure you subscribe right now for more NFL content. Like the video and feel free, of course, to leave a comment. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of agreement and disagreement in the comments. There always is whenever we talk about division rivals. And we're going to start, first of all, with the quarterback position, the most important position of them all. And our options are as follows. We have Lamar Jackson, Aaron Rodgers, Joe Burrow, and Dylan Gabriel. And we're going to run through them all. To be fair, I think it's pretty obviously a two-horse race, but let's just quickly run through all of these teams, all of these players for fairness sake. First of all, probably in last place, not that we're ranking them within it, but definitely in fourth place here, we have the Browns quarterback, Dylan Gabriel, the rookie drafted this year. I'm assuming he's going to be the starter. Currently on our lads, it's Joe Flacco. Really, Gabriel represents a kind of placehold for any of the Browns quarterbacks, right? I think Gabriel can be a fine rookie quarterback this year, but I think that's realistically going to be his ceiling. I don't think Joe Flacco is going to be much better. I don't think Shedeur Sanders is going to be much better. I don't think Kenny Pickett is going to be much better. So definitely not Dylan Gabriel. Then we have Aaron Rodgers, the new Steelers quarterback. I don't think he's good for the locker room or the culture that I'm trying to build. And yes, look, I'm building a team here. I need to think about that. I need to consider that. And Aaron Rodgers, in that regard, definitely falls short. We've seen that at his time in Green Bay, obviously, and also in New York more recently. However, though, on the field as a quarterback, he's not quite as bad as the Jets' record last year would suggest. I actually think he played overall pretty decently. It's just not anywhere near as good as what we have previously come to expect from Aaron Rodgers. I think his arm naturally is not what it was. His big-time throw percentage, that's a tight window throw deep down the field, has been the worst of his career. The rate at which he's throwing those big-time throws is the lowest it's been, barring injury, at just 4.2%. That's 18th in the league. And for me, the biggest issue with Rodgers this year was his ball placement. It was completely off. I mean, his off-platform throws, especially the classic Rodgers rolling out to his right and throwing a bomb deep down the field, simply isn't there anymore. It's a product of age, of course. Maybe the Achilles is still giving him issues. Who knows? But regardless, what we definitely know is that was just not there last year, which we've come to expect as part of Rodgers' game innately year after year. There was a throw to Garrett Wilson, which he missed wide open for a touchdown against the Seahawks, and then the play after that threw an interception. And Pro Football Reference has him just below, but nevertheless below the league average for accuracy percentage at 75%. So that aspect of his game has definitely gone. I'm not considering Rodgers here. For me, what it comes down to is pretty clearly, and I think most people would be in agreement with me here, is Lamar Jackson and Joe Burrow. Now, for me, Joe Burrow is one of the most cerebral and accurate quarterbacks in the National Football League. He's able to rival Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, and Lamar Jackson without having any of those physical tools, right? He doesn't have an elite arm velocity-wise. He doesn't have crazy rushing talent like all three of those guys to have to a degree. And it just shows how good he is with just his arm and his brain, essentially. He's kind of like the most bare of all quarterbacks, I would argue. He's not afraid to attack downfield. Yes, he doesn't have the velocity on his arm, but he's got the ability to make all the throws. His accuracy is absolutely pinpoint. The fact that people even comparing Joe Burrow's accuracy to that of Shedeur Sanders coming out in the draft was crazy to me. Heresy, genuinely. And he looks after the ball while doing so. He can have those massive chunk plays down the field, but he's not prone to turnovers. He's just so good in that regard. And the Bengals are able to put up 30 points a game and be remotely competitive because of Joe Burrow, because of him, really. And obviously Jamar Chase we'll talk about later, but mostly because of Joe Burrow. He is just that good. He's comfortably a top four quarterback in the league for me. Lamar Jackson, on the other hand, is simply a one of one of how he plays the game. He is one of the best dual threat quarterbacks ever. At the moment, there's a lot of discussion around Jalen Hurts and Cam Newton. For what it's worth, I think Cam Newton is infinitely clear of Jalen Hurts. Not that it's relevant to this video, but that's my 2 pence. However, I think Lamar Jackson is better than him, better than prime Cam Newton, which, looking back, there's tape now going around of Cam Newton everywhere. he's absolutely incredible, right? I do not do that. I'm not saying that to besmirch Cam Newton or because of how his career ended or because of recency bias. Lamar Jackson is simply that good. Like, he is insanely dominant. No NFL defenders can touch this man. He can't rush Lamar Jackson properly in the pocket because if he escapes from it, it's an explosive play. So the way he plays the game just puts him a level above the rest, I think, really. He's a double MVP winner. Honestly, maybe should have won it last year. I think he's definitely in line to win it again. 35 big-time throws, only 10 turnover-worthy plays. That was the best in that. He had 541 rush yards, most in the NFL for a quarterback. His threat as an athlete is just a different level, opens up the pass game, opens up the run game. His pocket movement is bonkers, absolutely bonkers. It's like he's got eyes in the back of his head. He can just feel the rush so well. He's hard to sack, impossible to tackle. I think Joe Burrow is pretty clearly a top 4 quarterback, as I said. But I think Lamar Jackson might be a top 2. And if we're looking at last year, it might be top 2 and not 2. So despite it being tough for Joe Burrow to not make it, I am going to go with Lamar Jackson as our quarterback in this instance. But who are we pairing with Lamar Jackson in the backfield? Let's have a look at our running back options. We have Derrick Henry, Caleb Johnson, Chase Brown, and Quinshon Judkins. And again, Judkins, running theme here with the Browns, since they are a bit of a mess of a team at the moment. Quinshon Judkins represents really the whole Browns backfield. He is currently not even practicing with the team. He's currently not even signed with the team because of legal issues. There's no date when he's going to return. Jerome Ford, the other Browns running back, he's not practicing because of an injury. So much so that they've signed a UFL running back to fill the void of Judkins and of Ford. I think that if Judkins plays, he'll actually be pretty good for what it's worth. But I'm not risking that. I'm not trying to build that culture on my team. Take note, Browns owners, this is what matters. It matters more than you would think. Building a culture, building an identity. Just look at the Lions, right? I'm not Dan Campbell, but I'm trying to not be like the Browns. I don't want people who make mistakes like that on my football team personally. That's just me. So no Quinshon Judkins. Chase Brown for the Bengals, he's a fun player. He had almost 1,400 combined yards last year as a good threat on the ground, good threat in the air as a receiver as well. Definitely, though, benefited from being kind of like the only guy de facto in that Bengals backfield. He, was the guy for them, but I don't think he's a guy for our team, realistically. Caleb Johnson, I think he's going to be a great fit for the Steelers. That Arthur Smith outside zone heavy offensive system is going to fit his skill set brilliantly. I think he would be my choice out of those other two pretty comfortably, out of Brown or Judkins. But we've got Derrick Henry, the king, right there in the corner of your screen. This was over before I even showed you the candidates. I think with every other position, we could have an element of disagreement and discussion. I think this just simply has to be Derrick Henry, whether you're a Ravens fan or not. He is a true one of one, to pair with a true one of one already at quarterback. Having both of them in our backfield, it's going to be exquisite. 99th percentile height, 98th percentile weight for a running back. And you see that on the field. He's just so much bigger. He's basically immortal. He's like a Tom Brady of running backs at this point. Yes, he's getting on relative to running back age, but he's just aging like a fine wine at this point. He's still able to run fools over. His game isn't like that of, say, a Devontae Adams at wide receiver, right? As a running back, you're not really winning with finesse. You're not able to. It's such a physical position. And yet Derrick Henry, at 30, is able to still win like he is when he was playing when he was 25 years old. And to have that physicality and to look after your body like that is just absolutely incredible. He fits the Ravens' run game perfectly. We're not going to be running the same system as the Ravens for what it's worth. I'm not getting into what offensive system we're running, but we're definitely not going to be entirely run heavy, which I actually think at this point in Derrick Henry's career is probably quite beneficial for him. So he is going to be a pretty clear running back on this team. He is just, 2,191 rush yards, 6 yards per attempt, 19 touchdowns, 1,323 yards after contact, 89 missed tackles forced. All of those stats either first or second in the National Football League last year. So dominant, thoroughly earned his position. We're now going to be moving on to the slot receiver, which is on the left-hand side of the formation, in between the wide receiver and the left tackle. Now, I've tried to limit this to guys who spend some of their time in the slot, right? I think it'd be cheating if I just put the 3 best receivers in a division if I put the three best receivers just out there wherever, right? I do want the slot guys to kind of be slot guys, either because they play mostly in the slot or because I think their body type and skill set translates to them winning mostly from the slot. So we have Zay Flowers, Calvin Austin III, Andre Yoshivas, and Jerry Jeudy. And Yoshivas is actually, for what it's worth, an effective wide receiver 3 for the Bengals. He's really good in that role, but this is a dream team we're building here, guys. We're not after effective wide receiver 3s. We want the best of the best, so we can do better. And that really goes the same for Calvin Austin III, unfortunately. So those two guys for me are out. Now, Jerry Jeudy, I'm not really sold on the 2024 season, if I'm going to be honest. He had 90 receptions for 1,229 yards and 4 touchdowns, but the rest of his career, he's been a middling wide receiver. Dare we call him a bust at Denver where he was drafted. He's got great agility, he's got good route running chops, but he's not really put that together for long enough for me to seriously consider him ahead of Zay Flowers here, for example. And I think Zay Flowers really is the better example. And that's because he's had back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons. He's an underappreciated weapon after the catch, 467 yards after the catch last year. You can throw Zay Flowers the ball at the line of scrimmage on a kind of wide receiver screen, and he will make defenders miss. He had 18 missed tackles forced last year in the league. That was 8th among all wide receivers. And that was ahead of A.J. Brown. He's that shifty slot receiver who's reliable. He can go over the middle. He can go deep as well if you need him to. He's the cusp for me. He's not a wide receiver 1 in his own right, but when I did my wide receiver rankings, which you can check out on this channel, if you haven't already, subscribe and check that out, I kind of put him in that kind of wide receiver 1.5 space. He's not a wide receiver 1, but he's better than a wide receiver 2. I think to have that guy in the slot is looking really strong. And I promise you, I'm not a Ravens fan. I'm not a Ravens fan. It's just how it's fallen so far. We've got a lot of Ravens players in there. But we're moving on to wide receivers now, and I don't think there's going to be Ravens receivers in. But let's go through them. So we have 2 from each team here. These are the guys that predominantly play outside. Judy's there for the Browns because he doesn't mostly play outside, although I do think his body type would mean that he could definitely play in the slot more, but nevertheless, he didn't win that job. He could, though, win the outside job. Let's see. So for the Ravens, we have Rashad Bateman and DeAndre Hopkins. The Steelers, we have DK Metcalf, their new off-season acquisition, and Robert Woods. We have Jamar Chase and T. Higgins for the Bengals, and we have Joe Jeudy and Cedric Tillman for the Browns. And starting with Bateman and Hopkins, we've been waiting for a breakout from Rashad Bateman since 2021, and it's not pre-pandemic, so I'm not going to take DeAndre Hopkins here. So both of those guys are out for me. Then DK Metcalf, I think DK Metcalf is a good wide receiver. I think he could threaten that wide receiver 2 spot. I think we all know he's going to take that wide receiver 1 spot, but we'll come on to that shortly. DK Metcalf, I feel, can never really escape the comparisons with A.J. Brown. And when you look at how dominant and electric and elite A.J. Brown is, it arguably makes DK Metcalf kind of look worse than he really is, to be honest. They both played for Ole Miss together in the same draft class, big-bodied wide receivers. They're always going to get compared to each other. Problem is with DK Metcalf for me is that he does not have that agility. He does not have the ability to run anything other than vertical routes, really. And that is, despite his body type and how good he is when he does win on those, does limit him in my books personally. And it makes him a little bit one-dimensional. And I think if we're looking for a big-bodied threat, there's someone better on the screen currently. Moving on to Joe Jeudy and Cedric Tillman. I mean, I've already spoken about Jeudy. I think, and it still stands. He didn't win the slot role. He's not going to win this out wide receiver role either. And the slot role, I think, was more open for him to win. And Tillman, he's not a top 2 wide receiver in the AFC North. He showed flashes a few years ago, but has been injured and not really able to put it all together. So it has to be the troublesome twosome of Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. I think any other answer here is wrong. They already play together. I love their chemistry. They complement each other so well. If we look at the 3 receivers we have currently on the field, we have Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, and Zay Flowers. That, I think, is legitimately unguardable for defenses. And it's a fantastic diversification of skill sets. I'm really big on this in the NFL. You want different guys being able to fill different roles. We have Jamar Chase as that do-it-all wide receiver 1, can win at all 3 levels of the field, can house a slant route from anywhere on the field. He can win downfield. He's just so good. I think he's kind of up there now after being Triple Crown leader, most receptions, most yards, most touchdowns last year. up there with Justin Jefferson, kind of a wide, like I put him definitely top 5, maybe behind AJ Brown, but he is 100% up there with the best of the best. T. Higgins is that kind of big-bodied threat, what DK Metcalf just lost out to, I believe. I think T. Higgins can be a one in his own right. We've seen that when Chase is injured, not on occasion, he can have those 100-yard games, and he did so versus Denver and the Chargers last year, 131 yards and 148 yards respectively. And then we've got Zay Flowers in the slot as that kind of gadgety slot player. You can give him screens. He can be the guy on slot fades. He's going to be the guy that is always going to be opening, creating separation, the mismatch weapon. How do you guard that? I mean, how do you guard that? It is kind of crazy that at the moment it is so dominated by, I think, the two best, at least offenses in the division with the Ravens and the Bengals so far. But goodness gracious, good luck guarding this offense. Then we move to tight end. And at tight end, we have Mark Andrews, Pat Freiermuth, Mike Gesicki, and David Njoku. And I think the way I'm looking at this tight end position now, considering the players that we have on here already, Derrick Henry at running back, Lamar Jackson at quarterback, Zay Flowers in the slot, T. Higgins at wide receiver, Jamar Chase at wide receiver. I'm not really looking for receiving chops here. We have enough receiving chops. So we can rule out Gesicki as that kind of receiving first tight end. And Pat Freiermuth as well, I'm going to rule out he's the poster child of a good tight end, but not much more than that. And I think we can add a bit more intangibles with our tight end position here. So it's between David Njoku and Mark Andrews for me. Looking to a degree at their blocking ability, kind of that veteran savviness. You know, Mark Andrews is old, don't get me wrong, he's 30 this year, but David Njoku's no spring chicken either. So I was hoping that age might split it for me, because it is quite a tough one. I think that Andrews is more reliable and more experienced, more of that veteran savviness. I know the age is not that different, but that's how I kind of see Mark Andrews playing. Whereas Njoku, I think, might be a bit more dynamic, might offer a little bit more as a run blocker. He is that kind of bigger tight end threat. But the thing is, what edges it for me here is that if this team gets to the playoffs and it's overtime, we need to have a play. I think that Mark Andrews is someone that can make that. Yes, I know he dropped the catch that meant that the Ravens didn't go to the playoffs. I know. I can hear people in the comments already saying that. Run that play back 1,000 more times. Mark Andrews is not dropping that play more than he already did. That was just incredibly unlucky. And I think that the chemistry with Lamar Jackson would play into that. Again, in this kind of really unique scenario, which I imagine this offense playing in, which, look, I'm the coach. I gotta hope we get into the playoffs. It's like fourth down, gotta have it, 4th and goal, in overtime. It's going to be Lamar Jackson throwing to Mark Andrews. Despite all the talent we have on this field already, that's what I'm looking for from this tight end position. Is that intangibles? Is the veteran savviness? And I just think that Andrews has that over David Njoku. So, moving on to the offensive line, we're going to do both tackle positions at the same time, left and right tackle. The top row is the left tackle, the bottom row is the right tackle. So we have, for the Ravens, we have Ronnie Stanley and Roger Rosengarten. For the Steelers, we have Broderick Jones and Troy Fautanu. For the Bengals, we have Orlando Brown Jr. and Amarius Mims. For the Browns, we have DeJuan Jones and Jack Conklin. One of these players on this list is simply not like the rest, right? Ronnie Stanley is going in immediately at left tackle. He has been great at left tackle for the past 9 seasons, barring an injury for one of them. He's good in pass protection, good in the run blocking as well. He's blocking for our big man, Derrick Henry, our, in this instance, GOAT, Lamar Jackson. Felt odd to say that as someone that really loves Josh Allen. And it's not easy, right? Blocking for someone like Lamar Jackson. In some ways, it's made easier because he can offset some of the pressure that you might allow, but equally holds onto the ball for ages in the pocket, and you've got to block for that for an extended period of time. So I think having a little bit of chemistry there, it's not all going to be about chemistry, otherwise it would all be the Ravens' offensive line. It's definitely not going to be. But I think Ronnie Stanley here is the clear choice at left tackle out of any of those players on this list. Here's the one that I think is genuinely good at what he does. The others, I think, all have their drawbacks, where I all have my concerns about some of them. So now it's a choice of these 7 between that final right tackle spot. I'm not against flipping these guys if needs be. So maybe a left tackle played right tackle. We'll see. Starting with DeJuan Jones then, from right to left. He looked good in his rookie year, looked like a bit of a steal, but then he took a big step back last year. He was a horrible run blocker, always off balance, always reaching over his pads, and he's only a mediocre pass protector, so he's out. Jack Conklin is going to his 10th season. This was 3-4 years ago. He'd be right in there. It's no longer that, though. I think he is he was great in his day, but is now on the downturn. And really, that's kind of the theme with the whole Browns offensive line. That's not the last time I'll be saying that for the Browns offensive line. Orlando Brown Jr., he missed some time last year, and he wasn't great when he was healthy either, if we're being honest with ourselves. And generally, he's not been that good in Cincinnati. Is it because he's playing with a worse offensive line? Is it because they often have to pass a lot to keep themselves in games? Yeah, maybe, but concerning, I would say, about Orlando Brown Jr. Amarius Mims, he was a rookie last year. Rookie tackles tend to struggle. He was absolutely no exception to that, unfortunately. Maybe in a few years he might make the cut here, but he's not going to make it this year. Broderick Jones, I mean, this guy's looking like a bust for the Steelers. Let's call a spade here. He allowed the 7th most pressures among tackles last year at 45. He allowed the 2nd most sacks at 11. There's clips of him going around from training camp of him just getting smoked, like immediately from the snap. Yes, he's playing a great Steelers defensive line, and yes, it's just clips from training camp, but the reason why I'm buying into that is because we've seen that in the regular season anyway. So I'm not taking a small sample size of training camp and extrapolating that out indefinitely. We know he's not very good, and we've seen him continue to not be very good at the beginning of this year in training camp. Trey Fautanu, he hardly played because of a dislocated kneecap last year. I have high hopes for him making this team eventually, maybe even after this year, because I loved him coming out in the draft, and I think he will be good. But am I going to bank on a possibility? Like, if I'm putting in a sophomore player who didn't play in his rookie year at tackle, no less, we're in trouble. And really, it's quite a weak position in this whole division, I would say, tackle at this point. I'm going to go for Roger Rosengarten at the other tackle spot here because nobody else is really competing for it, and he's the only competent candidate, I would argue. And again, I'm not just going for Raven. I'm not citing chemistry between Jackson and Rosengarten for this, because that's not what it's about. Really, he's kind of made it by virtue of no one else winning out the job. So a lot of Ravens players. Weirdly symmetrical at this point. Again, not planned. Now we're moving on to the right guard and left guard. Again, left guard is the top row, right guard is the bottom row. Again, not against flipping these guys if need be. Much easier to flip them when they play on the interior of the offensive line than on the exterior. Let's start with them from right to left again. But again, this is quietly a thoroughly uninspiring group here, guys. Offensive line, the Browns' offensive line 3-4 years ago, it probably would have been the whole Browns' offensive line. It's not changed, and they're getting old and they're declining. So that's kind of where we're in a bit of an interesting spot here. Joel Bitonio, like I said, turning 34. He's taking a step back physically. He's good, but not sure if we can rely on him for this year. Wyatt Teller, he's on the decline, specifically in pass pro. He was great, now a fringe starter. Dylan Fairchild, 3rd-round rookie. If he makes it in, we're in serious trouble. Patrick Lucas, not great. Or Lucas Patrick. You can never trust someone with 2 first names. Let it be known. Okay, if I've got that the wrong way around, it's not because I don't know ball. It's because they've got 2 first names. Isaac Seumalo, he's reliable enough. He is reliable enough. He was great for Philadelphia. I think if he played for our team rather than the Steelers, he would return to that fighting form. I like his potential. Mason McCormick, he had a fine rookie season, good for an offensive lineman, but not good enough to make it in here in this instance, I would say. And then Andrew Voorhees, he's replacing Patrick McCarry, who definitely would have made the cut if he was still if he was still playing for the Ravens, looking at the competition for this position. But he would be a weak link. He's not played loads of football. He was only drafted in the 7th round last year because I think he injured himself at the combine. He was taken in the 7th as like a banker for his talent. He could be good this year, not taking that risk. And Daniel Faalele, he is a monster, 97th percentile height, 99th percentile weight, 6'8", 385-pound guard. Bonkers. He's a mauler, not a finesse player. I'm going to take Isaac Seumalo at left guard. And then I'm going to be cheeky. I'm going to call a bit of an audible here. And we're going to bring in to the mixer Zach Fraser, the sophomore Steelers center, who did play some guard at West Virginia, let it be known. So he's not completely new to the position. And I do think it's possible to play any of the 3 interior offensive line positions if you can snap, to a degree. Obviously, not trying to belittle anyone. And he was really good. He only had 2 blown blocks in the run game last year and only allowed 1 sack. He's looking like one of the best young centers in the league. Now, I want to put him at right guard now, not just because of the weak crop at guard already existing beyond the other Steelers guard, but also because of who I think we all suspect is going to be in the contention for having the center position. So get Zach Fraser in there. Yes, he's slightly out of position, but I don't doubt his talent to be able to play there. Has played there before. Still playing on the interior. Still gets to use his same strength as playing center without any of the disadvantages of having to snap the ball and having to get his arm up quickly enough to be able to block. So if anything, it's going to be even better. Now the final position to take us home. Only 3 options because I have already taken the Steelers center. Is Tyler Linderbaum, Ted Karras, and Ethan Pocic. This might be the easiest selection of the day after running back, I would say. And it's going to be Tyler Linderbaum. He is one of the best young centers in the game. Young, yeah, he was only drafted a few years ago. I think it's him and Creed Humphrey really as 1A, 1B for the best young centers in the game. Maybe in a year or 2 years' time, Zach Fraser might be competing for that. But nevertheless, currently, it is quite comfortably Tyler Linderbaum and Creed Humphrey. And with Creed Humphrey not being in this division, it's pretty easy for me to put Tyler Linderbaum there. So this now on the screen is my final AFC North offensive dream team. At quarterback, we have the unbelievable, literally untouchable Lamar Jackson. At running back, we have the human bulldozer in Derrick Henry. In the slot, we have the human joystick. Lots of metaphors in Zay Flowers. At wide receivers, we've got Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, the troublesome twosome. Jamar Chase, one of the best receivers in the league. T. Higgins, also one of the best wide receiver twos in the league, purely by nature of him playing already with Jamar Chase. Keep that chemistry going. Then our tackle spots are taken by Ronnie Stanley and Roger Rosengarten. Our guard spots are taken by Isaac Seumalo and Zach Fraser. And then our tight end, our center is then Tyler Linderbaum. And finally, our tight end is Mark Andrews. What do you think of this AFC North dream offense? Let me know in the comments. Should I have put someone else in a different position? Should I have considered someone else? Was there a rookie that I didn't even consider? Let me know all your thoughts down below in the comments, good or bad. Make sure you leave a like on the video to encourage this to other people. We want more conversations on these videos, and I'm going to keep making all of these for every single division this offseason, so subscribe for even more dream offenses. But I've been your host, Dom Corbs. This has been Corbs NFL. I'll see you on the next video.